How do you know this?
I remember everything.
This was our song.
The corporate holiday party sparkled with forced cheer. Catherine stood near the window of the downtown ballroom, champagne untouched in her hand, watching her employees laugh and dance. At 55, she'd built Morrison Tech from a garage startup into a Fortune 500 company. She had everything except the one thing money couldn't buy, someone to share it with. Her assistant approached nervously. "Ms. Morrison, the pianist canceled last minute, food poisoning. But there's a gentleman here who says he can fill in. He was delivering flowers to the venue." Catherine waved her hand dismissively. "Fine, whatever keeps the music going." She turned back to the window, lost in thoughts of Christmases past, when a single piano note cut through the chatter. Then another. Her entire body went rigid. The melody was unmistakable, haunting, bittersweet, a song she hadn't heard in 30 years. Catherine spun around, her heart hammering against her ribs. At the piano sat a man in his early 50s, dark hair touched with silver, completely absorbed in the music flowing from his fingers. His hands moved with the same gentle confidence she remembered, though the years had carved character into his features. It couldn't be. She moved through the crowd as if in a trance, drawn by a song that existed nowhere in the world except in her memory and one other place. The heart of the man who'd written it for her when they were both 23. "How do you know this song?" Her voice came out barely above a whisper, but he heard it. His hand stilled on the keys. Ethan looked up slowly, and the recognition hit them both like a physical force. "Katie," he breathed, using the name no one had called her in 3 decades. The ballroom seemed to fade away. They were suddenly 2 kids again, sitting on a worn couch in a cramped apartment. Him playing melodies while she studied, for her business degree, dreaming impossible dreams together. "I wrote it for you," Ethan said softly. "I never played it. For anyone else." Catherine's carefully constructed composure crumbled. Tears blurred her vision. "You disappeared. 30 years ago, you just vanished. No note, no explanation. I looked everywhere." The pain in her voice made him flinch. Ethan stood slowly, aware of the curious eyes around them. "Can we talk somewhere private?" She led him to her office on the 15th floor. The city light spread below them like fallen stars. They stood on opposite sides of the room, decades and unspoken words between them. "My father got sick," Ethan began, his voice rough with old grief. "Stage 4 cancer. I got the call the morning, after we talked about getting engaged, remember? You were going to meet my parents that weekend." Catherine nodded, the memory sharp as broken glass. "I went home to Oregon, planned to tell you everything, but when I got there it was worse than they'd said. Mom was falling apart. My little sister was only 15. Dad had 2 months, maybe 3. He paused, running a hand through his hair. "I couldn't ask you to give up your dreams, Katie. You had that job offer in New York, the chance to join that startup. Everything you'd worked for. So you made the decision for me?" Catherine's voice shook with anger and anguish. "You just erased yourself from my life?" "I was 23 and terrified," Ethan said. "I watched my father die over 6 months. Then I had to help my mother keep the family flower shop running, help raise my sister. By the time I could breathe again, 2 years had passed. I called your old number, disconnected. I found out you'd moved to California, that you were already climbing the corporate ladder. I convinced myself you were better off without me. You were wrong." Catherine's voice broke. "I loved you. I would have chosen you. I know that now. But I was young and stupid and drowning. I made a choice I've regretted every single day since." Silence settled between them, heavy with lost time. "Did you marry?" Catherine asked. "Finally. Yes. Sarah. Good woman, kind heart. We had a daughter, Lily. Sarah died 4 years ago, car accident." The pain in his voice was fresh, real. "What about you? Married twice, both disasters. Turns out I kept comparing everyone to a ghost." She laughed bitterly, built an empire but came home to an empty house every night. Ethan moved closer, cautiously. "The flower delivery tonight wasn't random. I own the shop now. Took it over when Mom retired. When I saw the order was for Morrison Tech's holiday party, I looked you up. Saw your picture on the company website. It took me 3 hours to work up the courage to volunteer to play piano. You came looking for me? Catherine's voice softened. I never stopped loving you, Katie, even when I tried, even when I shouldn't have. That melody, I play it sometimes late at night when the loneliness gets too heavy. It's the only piece of you I let myself keep. Catherine closed the distance between them, studying his face. The boy she'd loved had become a man marked by loss and responsibility, but his eyes still held that same gentle warmth that had captured her heart decades ago. I'm not the same girl you knew, she said. I'm harder now, colder. Success came at a cost. I'm not the same either. Life carved pieces out of both of us. Ethan reached out tentatively, touching her face with infinite gentleness. But maybe we could learn each other again. No promises, no pressure, just two old friends remembering how to be themselves. Catherine leaned into his touch, 30 years of ice beginning to thaw. I don't know how to do this. I've forgotten how to let someone in. Then we'll learn together. Slowly. They stood together as the city glittered below, the ghost of that melody still hanging in the air between them. The years couldn't be reclaimed, the lost time couldn't be recovered. But perhaps in this unexpected moment they'd been given something rarer, a second chance. Over the following months, Ethan brought flowers to Catherine's office every Friday. Not expensive arrangements, but simple bouquets chosen with care. Her favorite peonies, wild flowers that reminded her of summers past. They had dinner once a week, then twice, learning the people they'd become while remembering who they'd been. Catherine met Lily, Ethan's 28-year-old daughter, over coffee. The young woman was protective, cautious, but warmed when she saw how her father smiled again, really smiled, for the first time since her mother's death. Ethan attended a Morrison Tech Board meeting and watched Catherine command the room with quiet authority. He felt pride swell in his chest for the dreams she'd achieved, even if the path had been lonelier than either of them had imagined. On the anniversary of their reunion, Ethan played that melody again, this time in Catherine's living room. When he finished, she sat beside him on the piano bench. Play it again, she whispered, but this time, stay. And he did. Sometimes love doesn't follow a straight path. Sometimes it circles back after decades of detours and heartbreak, older and wiser, carrying the scars that prove it survived. The melody that had once represented their ending became the beginning of something new, a love that finally had the time and maturity it deserved. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Subscribe for more stories that prove it's never too late for love, and comment below about the one that got away. Your stories matter.